the programming for the game logic, like the rules for the scenario of the hostage rescue scenario. Because the game was a modification of Half-Life, I didn't have to do a lot of other programming. So like all of the networking, all of the graphic rendering and stuff, that was all done by Half-Life. So that's one of the advantages of making a mod of a game. You kind of like save yourself a lot of low-level grunt work. So yeah, as you can see, the graphics were terrible, and the first version only had a very, very basic subset of what was to become the full version of Counter-Strike. There was only like 6 guns, and there was only 2 maps, and there was only like 2 characters. And as you can sort of see, the characters, they looked very similar to each other. So I remember the very first version, we got a lot of complaints from players saying that they looked too close to each other. We couldn't tell them apart, so they always ended up shooting each other. So that was a big problem. So as you can sort of see in the far right, that was kind of like my idea for a new terrorist. And when I first released that picture, a lot of players were like, "Oh my God, that is so ugly," and they laughed at me really, really hard. And I was like, "Oh my God, I can't release this. This is too bad," because players were just making fun of it. They were saying it looked like Luke Skywalker. So yeah. So yeah, I mean, so I remember. So I guess a lot of people never ever saw this because it was an unreleased character. But so now you see it now. So yeah, thankfully I didn't release that. So yeah, I mean, over the course of 2 years, we released a new version of Counter-Strike about once every 3 months, and around the 5th version that we released, we were contacted by Valve. And they were really interested in the game because at the time, the popularity of Counter-Strike was just kind of skyrocketing. And at about the time they contacted us, they said, "Oh, we really like what you guys did, and we'd like to purchase the game and hire you guys to make it, continue developing it." And at the time we were just 21 years old, and we had a lot of student debt, and we were like, "Yeah, okay, sure." We didn't really think about it, right? Because we just thought that it was a free game. We didn't think we'd ever make money from Counter-Strike. Thinking back on it, I realized how kind of immature we were in terms of like our business thought. We were just 21 years old, and we were broke. We were like poor, and we just like if someone threw money at us, we'd just be like, yes, give us money. And we didn't realize how much Counter-Strike was worth. So at the time we just said, yeah, okay, we'll sign. So then that was that, and we just sort of sold the rights to Counter-Strike, and we worked with Valve for about 4 or 5 years, and it was a good relationship. I enjoyed working there, and I learned a lot, and it's something that I don't regret doing because it was such a good experience for me. So yeah, even though I wish I would have asked for more, but that's the past. We all make mistakes. So at the time of CS's development, the team was like really just 2 people. Like it was a very small game. It didn't really contain a lot of graphics, and the programming was very simple. It was just myself, and I also had a partner called Jess, who was responsible for the website maintenance and also community management, which was a huge part of the success of Counter-Strike, because all of the levels in Counter-Strike, they were made by our community. And we would get like, every week we would get like 100 new levels submitted to us. And it was a lot of work for Cliffy to just kind of like look at the levels and evaluate them and just sort of see which ones we could include in our next version. And so yeah, it was just, it was a massive undertaking. And that's kind of how, but that's kind of how the game grew so fast, because of the input from the community. And if we didn't have that link with the community, I don't think Counter-Strike would have grown as fast as it did. And we may not have been as successful. So yeah. Next. So some of the lessons that I learned from working on Counter-Strike was that getting the community involved early was probably the most important thing for us, and was probably the biggest reason it grew so fast. Having the tool set as easy to use for the community was also a big issue for us, because at the time we didn't have really good tools, in fact, and they weren't really well documented. So we spent a lot of time just telling our level designers how to use the tools, and looking back on it, I realized how much time we wasted. So I think it was really, really important for us to, if we were going to do it again, it's really important to really focus on having a really, really simple tool set for the developers. And also, having to deal with community feedback. Like, we would get a lot of complaints and we would get a lot of suggestions on how to improve the game. And it was really hard for us to kind of like read all of them and kind of try to figure out, okay, how should we take these feedback and put it into our game? Because like player feedback generally is really not, you know, it's not really that helpful. It's really kind of like most of the feedback we would get would be like, I can't aim, can you fix the aiming? Or stuff like the game is unbalanced. So it was very, very just general stuff, and we had to kind of like read between the lines. Okay, so what does he mean? You know, because they're not very good at being specific. So you know, so that was a big challenge for us, and eventually we kind of got better at it though. So that's one thing that I kind of improved on as I kind of grew. And also another big thing that we kind of lacked when we were developing Counter-Strike was we didn't have a really good test environment. When you develop a game, especially like a multiplayer game that involves a lot of different players, it's important to have like an environment in which you can test your code before you release it. And we didn't have that. I mean, we were so amateur that we just have like 2 people. Before we release a version, we would just test it with me and Cliffy. And like if it didn't have any bugs, we said, okay, yeah, let's release. But you know, that's, I mean, like obviously looking back on that, you know, it was so ridiculous, because every time we release, we would get like instant bug reports. You know, like it was just like, oh my God, this is broke. How can we release this? You know, so that's the one thing that I regret not having, was just a proper environment where we can test the game fully with like 20 players that we needed to. So yeah. Yeah. So the next slide. So yeah, some of the interesting things about Counter-Strike, like that happened over the course of its development, was one of the most popular maps was DE Dust, and I remember when it first was submitted to us, I said, "This is ugly. I hate this. I'm not going to put this in our game." And and I was like, I had to argue with my partner and also the level designer, and they kept pleading, come on, please put it in the game. And then eventually, after about a month, I said, okay, fine, put it in the game, but I don't think it's going to be a success. And then, I don't know if you guys know, but this is the most successful map in Counter-Strike's history. So yeah, that was just one of those interesting facts that I almost kind of sabotaged the success of Counter-Strike by not putting that map in the game. So yeah, interesting to know. So another thing that was really that we got a lot of feedback from was every time we released a new version, our players would complain about things that we didn't even change. So like one of the big things that they would complain about was, this new version is more like, it has more lag than the last version. What did you guys do? And we'd be like, we didn't touch anything. What the heck are you talking about? Because like we no matter how much we explained to them, they would always complain. Every version, this is worse than the last version. Change it back, please. And then we were like, you know, one time I just got so fed up that the next version we released, I would just artificially subtract people's pings like by -50. So yeah. So if like their actual ping was 100, I just say, okay, 50. Just say it's 50. And then a lot of the players were like, oh my God, what did you do? This is incredible. And like, so I mean, it just goes to prove that these people, the people that complain, they have no idea what they're talking about. They don't have they're not doing this scientifically. They're just doing this based on how they feel. So, you know, it's like, how can you, so it just kind of proved to me that player feedback is something that you really have to, you know, kind of like, just kind of, you know, filter out and try to read between the lines. So, but one of the funny things was that little thing that I did by subtracting 50 was I didn't check for negative values. So so some players were getting like -20 ping, and people were like, what the heck's going on, you know? And I was like, oh my God, this guy's from the future, you know, he's playing from the future. So yeah, that was a funny moment that we kind of got caught because we're like, oh, you know, we have to admit that, oh, okay, we did something bad. We actually did subtract 50. But anyways, that didn't last long. So anyways, but it was just an interesting part of the learning experience. So yeah. So let's see. So okay. So anyways, so CS development was yeah, you know, it was a big highlight of my career. And when I look back on it, I was like, whoa, my math is bad here. Okay, whatever. Okay, whatever. You know, I did this last night, and I was like, you know, I'm still jet lagged because I came from Canada. I was like, oh my God, I'm not thinking. So I apologize. That's supposed to be 5% teamwork, hard work. Because really, when I look back at CS, you know, it wasn't a lot of, you know, it wasn't something that we did was so much better than the competitors. When I look at it, I don't think it was a terribly great game, but I just think it came out at the right time. And you know, that's the 95% luck part. It just came out at a time where nobody made a game like that, and you know, we didn't anticipate that. We didn't look at the industry and say, okay, this industry needs a game like this. Let's make this. No, I just made this game because you know it was just fun, and for me it was fun, and I wanted to do it. So that's where I got lucky, and you know. For me to do it again, I don't think it's ever going to happen. You know, I mean, I don't think I'll ever have a hit like Counter-Strike. And this is something that a lot of other game developers, you know, I look at them and I said, you know, wow, you guys got lucky with that one as well. So some examples of other like big hits that I feel that kind of really got lucky were like Minecraft. You know, I mean, it's a great game. I mean, I'm not knocking it. I'm not saying this is a game that didn't require hard work. You know, these types of games where, you know, nobody knew that this is going to be a big hit, but, you know, it's basically like Lego. It's virtual Lego, basically, right? So, and at the time when it came out, there was nothing like it. So, that's one example. And another recent example was DayZ, which I will say it's a really awesome game, and it has really interesting gameplay. But I feel that it just came out, you know, I think a lot of it was kind of luck. It just blew up because there was nothing quite like it, you know? And, you know, I mean, I think you guys know what this is, right? You know, I mean, if you talk to the guy who made this, he's probably not going to say, yeah, this I spent like freaking years doing this game. No, man. You know, honestly, I'm not saying he's terrible developer, but, you know, I think he got lucky, you know? I mean, if someone else tried to do this, like maybe from 10 years from now, if someone tried to do Flappy Birds, the exact same thing, it's not going to be a hit. Or maybe if they try to do it 10 years ago, I don't think it's going to be hit, but you know, these kind of things, you know, you never know. You know, society is just weird like that. You know, they're like, this one's another one. So you know, I mean, it's not a game, but you know, like it's just you look at this kind of music and it's like, could this, like, if you did this 10 years ago, it wouldn't have blown up, right? I mean, it's a good song, but I'm not saying it's a great song, but you know, there's very many songs similar to that didn't blow up. So when you look at a lot of big hits out there, you have to understand that a lot of it is just luck. You know, I don't think all these people who did these hits were like masterminds and geniuses, because you know, that's just my opinion. But anyways, so yeah, so the biggest challenge in today's industry with regards to the game industry is that as a game developer, you know, you wanna succeed, you wanna make some money out there. But it's a huge challenge because when you look at the game industry right now, every day there's like new games on the Steam store, and on the iTunes store there's like 100 new games every day. So it's a big challenge for game developers to really find a niche that kind of like they can succeed in. And it wasn't like this 10 years ago though, because 10 years ago we didn't have 100 games every day. It was just more like one game every day. So you know, it was much more feasible to actually survive. So it's a big challenge, and it's something that I kind of think about with a lot of my friends, and we kind of trying to we don't know. There's no solution to it though. I don't think. Yeah, but so yeah, I mean, in order to make a successful game, I think it's important to kind of look at the industry, like the history of the industry over the past 25 years. So this is just talking about how games have evolved through the past 25 years. So in 1999 and 2000, the most popular genres were like the RTS genre and the MMO genre. And also the FPS genre started to become very popular as well. So these three genres were very, very big at the time. And also during this time, we were seeing kind of the death of adventure games like King's Quest, Police Quest. I'm not sure if any of you guys are familiar with these games, but they're kind of like these text-based. No, not text-based, but they're kind of like you move your mouse over and the character kind of. They're adventure games, anyways. You can look them up. And also simulation games. These are really, really difficult technical games that at the time they were popular during the 1990s, but during the end of the 90s we were seeing far less of them, and it was kind of a shame because I was a big fan of these simulation games, but they weren't really easy for casual players to learn because they took a lot of time to get into the game and just to really enjoy it. So yeah, we were seeing the death of these two genres. And over to the next decade, we started to see like FPS games just become huge. Like I think this decade was the golden age of FPSs, and we saw like Call of Duty and Battlefield just really just make a huge impact on the industry. Also, we were seeing the kind of like the peak of MMOs. I would say kind of like World of Warcraft. It was starting to become pretty popular, but I think it's kind of dying out at this certain age as well as RTS games. We didn't see as many of them as at that time, but and also the emergence of MOBA. This was kind of the decade where we saw League of Legends and Dota kind of just come out of nowhere and just kind of take the industry by storm. And here we are now, where we have like just kind of MOBA madness, I would say, because everywhere you look, everyone's just trying to emulate Dota and trying to emulate the success of it. But as you can sort of tell, that not a lot of them are having a lot of success. Like just recently, this one called Dawngate, it's actually being published by EA. But they just actually stopped service because they realized that they couldn't compete with League of Legends and Dota. So it's a very, very competitive industry. So yeah, also we're seeing the emergence of sandbox games like Garry's Mod in Minecraft and DayZ. So yeah, and also we're also seeing kind of like the re-emergence of some genres that died 2 decades ago. Like simulation games are kind of coming back, but they're becoming more casual. So they're changing their ways, and they're kind of learning from the failures of the past decade. And as well as adventure games as well, we're starting to see kind of like the emergence of like new adventure games, like the ones from Telltale. So it's kind of interesting that you can never really predict how the game industry will evolve in the next decade. So one of the things with regards to making games is when people ask me what kind of game I should make or what kind of game that they should make, I always tell them, you should really pay attention to pop culture. What is popular right now? And you can use that as a barometer as what kind of game that you should make, and that will really, really help you out in terms of having your game appeal to a broad audience. Because if your game appeals to a broader audience, there's a much greater chance of it making a financial success. It's kind of limiting though, because you don't want to be like, oh, I got to make another like game like Game of Thrones or like something like that. But it's like if you want to make it easier on yourself, it really, really helps to kind of pay attention to what is fashionable now. So like for example, there was like a decade ago, there was like a lot of World War II games, and I thought that they kind of rode on the success of movies like Saving Private Ryan and that kind of thing. And also, like Lord of the Rings, kind of spawned the success of games that were based on fantasy. So yeah, it really helps to kind of use pop culture as a kind of a barometer for what kind of theme that your game should have. But that's not to say that like as game developers we should shy away from innovative games, because when you look at the last 2 decades. All of the innovative games that ever came out were actually made by indie developers. And the thing is, indie developers take more chances. They take more risks because big publishers like EA and Activision, they don't look at they look at these games like these and they just say, well, this is a big risk. There's a huge chance that it's not going to make money. So they won't even bother pursuing these games. But it's important that I think people who are amateurs, that they actually do like look at pursuing these games, because if they didn't, then we wouldn't have such huge genres like this. So I think most of the innovation does come from the indie scene. So now I'd like to just talk about like the revenue growth of the game industry over the past 2 decades. So this slide. So as you can sort of see in this slide, from 1995 to 2015, the revenue actually increased pretty dramatically. Actually, you saw a really sharp spike, and it's kind of indicative of how the industry is kind of growing in a just in monetary wise terms. That we're starting to see more and more gamers come out. And this is kind of a chart showing like the different platforms, how they're kind of growing. And as you can sort of see, the mobile market is really just skyrocketing. And I mean, eventually it's probably going to overtake the PC, obviously. But it's got a long ways to go before it reaches the console, the level of console gaming. So as you can sort of see from the previous slides, the revenue of the industry has grown 3 times in the past 25 years. But the number of developers has grown, like, I would say more than like maybe 20 times. I would say like even like 50 times. We're seeing way more developers than there was back in 1995. So the problem is like how do we as an industry how are we able to survive? Because there's not enough money to go around. Unless we all take pay cuts, but that's not going to happen. So you're starting to see a lot of different changes in the industry to accommodate this kind of like imbalance in the growth of the industry. Like we don't have as much revenue as we do the developers. So one of the changes that we're starting to see is the introduction of free-to-play, and this is a mechanism that was actually it was born out of Asia actually, because in Asia, as some of you may know, that piracy is a huge problem, and in fact I think 99% of the games in Asia are pirated. Like there's a very low percentage of people who actually buy games in Asia. So the Asian game developers, they came up with this solution that they would make their game free, and they would generate revenue by selling items within the game. So it was kind of a very interesting method, and as you can sort of see, it's really taken off, because you're starting to see it kind of encroach on the Western industries. We're starting to see a lot of games in the West use this method, and also mobile games almost exclusively are free to play. So that's really kind of, it's taken off in that regard. So one of the main attractions is it kind of nullifies piracy. Like if your game is free to play, it's never going to be pirated. It's free, so you don't have to worry about that. But you also have to change the way you think of your game. It's not a product. It's a service. So like you can't just release the game and then not worry about it and then walk away and hopefully it makes money for you. You actually have to release it and then constantly maintain it. So it's a big change in the way game developers have to operate, and it changes like just the whole infrastructure of your company in that sense. Also, another good thing about free-to-play is it also allows the game to incorporate advertisements from different industries. Like so you can put in ads from cars and that kind of stuff. I mean that kind of thing you could still do it in the non-free-to-play games, but it kind of works better with free-to-play model, because people understand that this is a game I'm playing for free, so I don't mind watching the commercials. So yeah, that's one aspect of free-to-play. So I mean, if you decide to make a free-to-play game, there's a few guidelines that you have to be be aware of in order to make it successful. So all free-to-play games, when you make them, you have to give the player access to the entire game right away. Like I mean, it's in order for the game to be successful, the gamer has to have like basically 80% of the entire game experience right in front of them. Because if you kind of hide away a lot of your game experience, the gamers they won't get to see it before they leave. Because I think the average play time for a free-to-play gamer is like 30 minutes or something, 20 minutes. And if they're not hooked in 20 minutes, they're going to uninstall the game and leave. They'll never come back. It doesn't matter if you make an update or do anything. So as a developer, you have to make sure your game is instantly attractive to the gamers within like 20 minutes. So one of the things is important is like you have to make it really easy for them for the first 20 minutes. Like your game can be very complicated, like League of Legends or like World of Tanks, but usually the first new players who install the game, they're introduced through like tutorials, and the very first missions are really easy, and they get money very easily. So it's that level of ease that makes the game attractive for new players, and it kind of reduces their chances of leaving so soon. Another important thing with a free-to-play game is you have to make the game experience last long. Like, you can't have the game end after like 20 hours or 30 hours. That's a big no-no, because in order for free-to-play games to work, you have to keep them around long enough for them to want to pay money. And I think I was reading somewhere that the average time that a free-to-play gamer spends on the game has to play the game before he spends money, I think it's like 100 hours. So I mean, that's a long time before they actually open their wallets, because free-to-play gamers are notoriously cheap. You know, I mean, they're like, you know, I'm not going to pay money. You know, I got this for free. So you have to like kind of trick them into like just playing longer, and just make the experience kind of more worthwhile for them. So another thing is like you have to be aware of making the game too pay to win, because a lot of players, they don't like it when the game sells items that puts them at advantage over other games. That's also a big no-no. So so one of the things about free-to-play games is people don't realize, but on average, only 5% of the people who play the free-to-play game spend money. Like the other 95%, they don't spend a dime. So it's really important to really try to increase that it's called a conversion rate. So like in order for your game to be successful, you need to at least have a 5% conversion rate. Anything below that, then usually the game just shuts down. They just said, okay, you know, we're not making money, we'll shut it down. So that's kind of what happened to Planet Dawn, and it happens to, you see a lot of free-to-play games just shut down because of this. You know, they're just not earning enough revenue. So to give you some examples of other games that earn a lot, League of Legends has like a 15% conversion rate. That means like 15% of the players who play it are actually buying stuff. World of Tanks has a really high one. It's like 25%. So part of that is because World of Tanks, they sell stuff that really affects the player's performance. So yeah. So the more you sell items that have an effect on performance, the more conversion rate it is. But at the same time, the more risk that you're going to piss off players, and you're going to have players leave your game. So it's kind of a fine balance, you know. So some of the limitations of free-to-play games is they don't work well. You know, in my opinion, they don't work well for games that take place in reality, because I think free-to-play games in general, they have to sell cosmetics, and they have to sell visual items that change the look of the player. And generally, when your game is based in reality, there's not a lot of things that you can sell. You know, you can't sell pink hats and stuff like that before it looks ridiculous. You know, so it's important that if you're a free-to-play game, you have to have it so you don't. It's kind of you don't have any limitations on the visual item that you can sell. Like, for example, good examples are like Team Fortress 2 and League of Legends and those types of games. They're based in fantasy, so you can make up as many items as you can. So another limitation is free-to-play games generally don't work with single-player games. Like there's not a lot of single-player games out there that are free-to-play. I can't really think of any. I mean, there's some on the mobile, like Candy Crush. But Candy Crush is a special case because Candy Crush is able to introduce new elements, like new levels, and they can actually increase the play time quite easily by adding new levels. And it's not hard for them to add new levels. But for a game like Batman or Skyrim, for them to add more content to prolong the game experience, it costs a lot of money. So it's not very cost benefit for them to make it a free-to-play game. So in general, I don't think we see a lot of free-to-play games on the PC side because of that. So another limitation of free-to-play games is it requires a minimum amount of players. Like, you can't have like just 100 players playing your game. It's just not. It won't generate as much enough revenue. Like, I think the base number of players that you need for like a PC game, for a free-to-play PC game is around, like, I would say around 5,000 players at any given time. So that's a big number. Like, compared to non-free-to-play games, you can have like a successful non-free-to-play game with maybe 500 players, and that, you know, that's fine. So it works. It's a different limit. It's a different requirement for those types of games. So yeah. So, as a game developer, we're always kind of presented with three options when we make a game. Like, oh, should we make it for the PC or for the console or for the mobile game? And you have to really target your audience if you decide to make it for the PC, because each platform has a very different audience and they have very different expectations. And I always find that with PC players, they kind of prefer games that have a more deep, complex experience. So, for example, SimCity, Football Manager, but they also have kind of gamers that also prefer something more casual, like Team Fortress 2. But when you look at the console gamers, you would never see them play like a game like SimCity or Football Manager, because console gamers tend to be more, I guess I would say, younger, and they prefer something more fast-paced and not as deep as those types of games. So you can sort of see what they prefer over there, like Call of Duty, Halo, Grand Theft Auto, and God of War. And when it comes to mobile games, they're a very, very diverse group of players, and it's very hard to target them because their tastes kind of range from like very casual games to very complex games. But I think the majority of casual players, they prefer games that last for like 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, and something that you can play and put down, and you know. So yeah, Angry Birds and Flappy thingy. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I was thinking about that. So one of the challenges when making mobile games as a developer is because every day there's like 1,000 games on the store, and you know, as a gamer you want to be on the top 10, right? So one of the things that a lot of game developers do is they have a way of cheating the system, in fact, by actually writing fake reviews. And like one example is you can actually purchase some people in China that will actually write reviews for your game, and it costs like $1 per review, and it's very interesting because it seems like, wow, that's so dishonest, you know. But this is kind of the way, this is the evolution of the industry, that it's gone to the point that the mobile industry is so saturated that you have to cheat in order to get to the top 10. Like, even if your game is really good and you think, oh, it's gonna go viral, don't worry about it, people are gonna play it. No, man, like I've seen great games that just never get noticed and never get played because they didn't hire this Chinese girl to do the reviews, you know? So yeah, I mean, I don't know if people are aware of this, but this is a real truth. Because I know, because I worked at a company and we actually hired this Chinese person. Not this one in particular, but not people like them, and it's kind of interesting seeing that, you know. It's like, you know, and it costs like $1 per review, and it's very weird, you know. So I mean, like, not only do you have to make a good game, but you have to actually pay money to do the marketing. So it's really important, especially with the mobile. Yeah. So some guidelines just for in terms of game design. Whenever you design a game, it's important to design the game so you get feedback from your players as soon as possible. So I generally, with Counter-Strike, we release the first version as quickly as we can, and then we would get feedback every 2 months, and that really helped us to generate to just discover bugs and just really change the game's direction on a really quick schedule. So another aspect is when you design your game, it's really important to nail down the core aspect of your game first, and then focus all of your research on developing the core game first. Because I see a lot of game developers, they spend time on aspects that don't really aren't important to the core game, and they kind of develop that part first, and they spend time, and then they realize, oh wait, the core game is not fun. Maybe, you know, we just wasted like 2 years developing all these pretty graphics when we should have just made the core game fun, and then decide if we wanted to iterate on that. So it's really important as a developer, we try to focus on identifying what your core game mechanic is, and just making sure that part is fun. And you know, I've seen game developers spend like 80% of their time just doing the core game first, and then the rest of it is actually really just trivial. You're just adding like pretty graphics, and yeah, it's not hard at all. So I think that pretty much concludes my talk. I just want to thank you guys for coming out, and I hope you guys found that kind of informative. And I think now we're just going to be taking some questions. If any of you guys had any questions with regards to this presentation or just anything in general, I'm going to be here. Thank you. Thank you.
So, good afternoon.
Hello.
Ras?
Oh, sorry. Hi.
Here.
Yeah. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for coming, first of all.
Oh, you're welcome.
My question is about those reviews on applications. How much do you think, or how many reviews are necessary on average for an application to get started?
Oh, this is a tough one. It gets higher as as you see more games being on the. Because I think when we hired that person, we only needed to do about I think like 5,000 fake reviews. So so yeah, I mean, it's considerable. It's a considerable amount. Because when you look at the iTunes store, their top 10 generally has at least like God, I don't know how much, but it's quite a lot. It's quite a lot, yeah. So I mean, just to give you an idea of how much the marketing we had to spend, it was like around $10,000 just for the to get the reviews on there. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
The more, the better.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
I could see from the what I was reading about Counter-Strike from the mod that it was not open source in the beginning.
Yes. No, it wasn't.
It was free, but not, just let me continue, please. So
Yeah.
the question is, how did you get the community to contribute with the maps and everything else for a project that was not open source?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, it wasn't open source in the sense that we didn't release the source code for the game, but we did release the tools that allow the mappers to make the levels, and that's really all they needed. And yeah, but with regards to the source code, yeah, we didn't release that. And we didn't think it was necessary, though, because we didn't want people to make different versions of Counter-Strike at the time, because we thought that it would like splinter the community, and that's not very good. Because for the community to grow, you want to keep them on the same, like just one game. It's important for the game to kind of evolve that way. We felt, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, first of all, I want to say a great presentation.
Oh, thank you.
So I have a question about Counter-Strike. It is a game where there are two teams with different objectives. How can you balance that?
Yeah, it's a good question. You know, with regards to the hostage scenario, that wasn't as popular because, as you mentioned, it's the two teams have different objectives. And we weren't really able to make that as balanced as the bomb scenario. The bombing scenario, we were able to make that pretty balanced because when you look at the bomb scenario, it works kind of like capture the flag. So as long as you place the bomb spots in the correct locations, you can make it very balanced for both teams. So it was kind of easy for the bomb scenario. But yeah, as you kind of allude to with the hostage scenario, we had a bit of trouble making it balanced, and that's one of the reasons why you don't see many hostage rescue maps on esports, because it's generally they're not as balanced as the bomb ones.
Okay, but just an add-up, do you balance it with other things like weapons or locations?
No, not with Counter-Strike. We didn't really balance it with weapons because we made the weapons kind of like you buy them at the start of the round, and pretty much each team had pretty much the same kind of weapon types. So we didn't really want to mess with the weapons so much. We tried to just balance it with proper level design. I think that's the only thing that we really did with balancing it. Just try to have the locations of the hostages in proper spots that would make it kind of balanced. So as you probably played a lot of the Counter-Strike maps, a lot of the maps they don't look realistic. Like when you look at the layout, you don't think, oh, this is not something that makes sense in a realistic setting. But they were kind of set up that way because they were balanced, you know. So yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hi. I have two questions. The first one is, if there will be another Counter-Strike sequel, and the other one is if you're thinking in creating another game.
Yeah, as regards to the Counter-Strike sequel, I don't work at Valve anymore, so I left in 2006. So I think I don't really know what their plans are with regards to a sequel, because I look at CS:GO right now and I think, wow, that's a really great game. I don't know how they can improve on that. So I have no idea if they plan on doing a sequel. Myself personally, I tried to make a game after Counter-Strike, but it wasn't very good, and I'm not going to mention it. So, but now I'm just working on another game. I'm working on a game called Rust, and I'm really enjoying it. So it's a lot different than Counter-Strike. So yeah, so hopefully that answers your question.
Hey, I'm here.
Oh, hello.
I was just wondering your comments about with 100 games releasing every day. I don't think it's a really sustainable thing. So it's gonna break. It's gonna pop some.
Yeah.
And I was wondering what your thoughts are about that, because you seem really informed on the industry.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I always look at it and people ask me, oh, how do I get in the industry? And I'm like, you shouldn't really get in this. It's a difficult industry. I mean, it's scary because 10 years ago, it was it was a very attractive industry to get into, but now it's become quite saturated and difficult for new game developers to really make a mark on it. So the question was, what do I see? It's going to blow up, right? I think... Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to start to see maybe a point where we're not going to see as many game developers. They're going to realize they can't make money doing this, and they're going to probably try to, kind of move to different industries. So I don't think it's going to constantly increase. We're not going to see 1 million games every day. No, I do think, because here's the thing, out of all those 100 games that release every day, only one of them makes money. The other 99 guys, they're poor. Yeah. It's sad, but it's true, because I'm one of those 99. Yeah.
You go.
Hi.
Hello.
So recent controversy about DLC. What's your opinion?
Ooh, yeah, to me, it seems like DLC is kind of almost like free to play. They're trying to make more money on a product that they already sold. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of it per se, but I look at it as, these game developers, these game publishers, they become so large. It takes so much money to develop these games that they have to make their money back, and they're looking at these methods, and DLC is one of them where they can, make more money on a product that they already made. And it's just to me it looks like kind of like an extension of free to play where they're trying to sell more stuff in the game that it's already been sold. So yeah, I mean, me personally, I can't say that I'm a big fan of it as a gamer, but I mean as a developer, I kind of understand where they're coming from because it does cost a lot of money to make those games. Yeah, unfortunately, especially with these big AAA games. I mean, it costs I was looking at the budget for GTA 5, and I think it was $500 million or something. It's ridiculous. But it made billions, so I mean, in the end, it worked out. But some games that do resort to selling DLCs, they cost around maybe $100 million, and if they don't sell the DLCs, they don't make back the money that they spent. So it's kind of it's unfortunate that they resort to those tactics, but. I mean, you see, I don't think it's going to go away, though, because you start, you look at Call of Duty, you look at Battlefield, all of them have DLCs, all of them have the season pass stuff. And, yeah, I think it's really just kind of their version of free-to-play, Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, yeah. Hopefully that answers your question.
Over here. Up here. Upper. More. At the top. Here.
Oh, hello. Hi. Yes.
I have two quick questions. The first one is slightly answered. You said in the middle of the presentation that you think realistic games can't really have cosmetic effects, but
Yeah.
recently CS:GO introduced weapon skins.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that kind of contradicted.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't, me personally, I think it looks kind of weird, the weapon skins, because it kind of turns the game into like a circus. But the thing is, yeah, but I don't think Valve really had a choice with CS because there was nothing that they can change other than the guns. So yeah, that's why I do feel like if you're gonna make your game on reality, you're really limiting yourself. And I think Valve agreed with me, and they said, "Oh my God, we have to do something." So I think skins was probably probably the easiest thing they can change without making everybody mad. I mean, can you imagine if they changed the player skins? Oh man, I mean, like you would see a lot of flack. I mean, I wouldn't want to play the game because, for me, playing a realistic game is about trying to put me into the world and trying to convince me that I'm in that setting. And when someone's running around with a pink hat, it just destroys the setting, right? So yeah, that's kind of why I don't think realistic games fit that well, because they kind of break the reality. They break the immersion factor. So yeah. So yeah, I mean, with regards to the question, do I like the gun skins? No, I don't like it. Yeah.
And the other question, are you in the PC master race or you're a console fan?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm definitely PC master race because I'm a developer.
So guys, thank you very much. Thank you, Min.
Yeah, thank you,
So,
guys. Yeah, thank you.
I think he deserves it, so give it a one. So we're going to have also 2 workshops next, one big data and another one by Min, Unity. And he'll also be at the showcase, so thank you everyone. Pleasure to having you here. See you tomorrow.
Yes, sure.